Hey there, hard rockers. David from Hard Rock Reverie back with another video. I have the vinyl, I have the CD, the Crucial Crew edition. I also have the Music to Crash Your Car 2 Volume 1 edition, which includes the Leather Records version and this version. Boy, is that worth the money. Please, please, if you are really a Motley Crue fan, go buy that thing. If you didn't already, it is awesome. If you can get it for maybe 50 bucks, I think that's reasonable for what you're going to get. You are not going to get a copy of the Leather Records version of this album for anywhere less than $300 right now. So, at least in my experience so far. So yeah, go find that thing. Yeah, boy. Too Fast for Love. 1981, they recorded their original edition of this album on Leather Records. 1982, it was re-released by Elektra when Elektra had signed the band. The first edition, the Leather Records copy, they printed 900 copies and released them on November 10th, 1981 on Leather Records. Elektra Records signed the band the following year, at which point the album was remixed and partially re-recorded. And that release, the Elektra one, was issued on August 20th, 1982. It had a different track listing and slightly different artwork. There was red lettering on the cover instead of the original white and kind of clear, just outlined in white lettering that were on the leather versions. It had a different interior photograph of the band, and this has become the standard version from which all later reissues have been derived. The re-recorded album was remixed under the supervision of Roy Thomas Baker, and they changed the track listing in a couple of ways. First, the song Stick to Your Guns which was the band's first single before they released this album on Leather Records, that was removed from the album, but it is featured as a bonus track on the Crucial Crew version, if you want to go find that to hear it. Also, I have the video on my channel. You can look that up. And I will post links to all my different Motley Crue videos in the description below this video, including the Leather Records version of the album. In 1996, Motley Crue and Elektra Records split. The band again formed their own record company, Motley Records, and released all the albums that had come out before New Tattoo. And like I said, the Crucial Crew re-release of Too Fast for Love does add different versions of the songs from the Leather version of the album as bonus tracks. It's got the original version of Too Fast for Love with the longer intro. When you're young and crazy, life goes on. And Stick to Your Guns, Toast of the Town, which was the B-side to the Stick to Your Guns single. And a cover of the Raspberries song, Tonight. Also a live version of Merry-Go-Round. The album originally was recorded at High City West in Los Angeles, California in October of 1981. The original version, which included Stick to Your Guns, was 38 minutes and 49 seconds. The Elektra version is 34 minutes, 19 seconds. And Motley Crue originally produced the album themselves. Although the album only peaked at number 77 on the US Billboard 200, it did sell 1 million copies, and it's considered an 80s heavy metal classic, although it's not heavy metal, not even close. The style of the album mixes elements of punk rock, glam rock, heavy metal elements, and it's considered to be one of the most influential albums in its genre. Too Fast for Love was the earliest of 7 consecutive Motley Crue studio albums to be certified gold or platinum, which includes every album from Too Fast for Love up to and including Generation Swine, 1997. All of those have at least been certified gold, most of them platinum. As far as the reception, Too Fast for Love received mostly positive reviews, mostly. AllMusic gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and Steve Huey, the AllMusic reviewer, stated that Motley Crue essentially comes across as a bash 'em out bar band, making up in enthusiasm what they lack in technical skill. I would agree with that for the most part on the Too Fast for Love album. This is not, it's not Yes or even Pink Floyd, something like that. These guys were sort of street punks learning their craft at this point, which is one of the things, honestly, that I love about the album. The Collector's Guide to Heavy Metal gave Too Fast for Love 9 out of 10 stars. Metal Storm gives it 8.8 out of 10 stars. Pop Matters gave it a favorable review. And the Rolling Stone Album Guide gave Too Fast for Love 2.5 out of 5 stars, which basically tells me way more than the other reviews that were more positive, because if Rolling Stone dislikes something, it's generally great. Okay, so the album cover. I love it. I couldn't have cared less when I was 13 that it had anything to do with a Rolling Stones cover or any of that crap. I barely knew anything about the Stones when I was 13 anyway. I love the colors. I love the handcuff belt and the black leather glove and the jewelry and all the rest. It's just an awesome, iconic image. And going back to the Rolling Stones nod, or whatever the case, I'd just like to personally thank Motley Crue for having Vince in pants that leave a little bit to the imagination. I really hate seeing that Sticky Fingers cover every time it pops up on social media. Every time it pops up, that's what she said. Because I can honestly think of almost an endless number of things I'd rather do than have to see Dick in those pants. The band photos on the back of the album and the inner sleeve are fantastic. I love these photos from this era of the band. And that one on the original leather version where they airbrushed Vince's hair huge to look like it was taller than Nicky's hair cracks me up. I love that picture. As for the tunes, track 1, Live Wire. 5 out of 5 stars. That fucking riff just makes me want to run through a wall. What a great opener. Great video, too. Nicky's all got his legs on fire. I know it's sort of the in thing to talk about how Nicky could barely play his bass in these days. I mean, he even says it too, so. But I absolutely love listening to his bass lines on this album. It's not about the technical prowess of what he's playing, what scale it's in, or any of that bullshit, or the quality of how he hits or doesn't hit each note. It's about the choices he makes with that bass. The bass lines through this entire album are gold. I love them all. They're just magical. You can learn a lot about what to play and what makes a great bass line by listening to the choices Nicky made on these songs. As a musician and a bass player, I'm telling you, if you want to learn to play bass guitar in a band, listen to these bass lines, not that Billy Sheehan crap. All you're going to learn from Billy Sheehan is how to take away from the song, in most cases by showing off how many notes per second you can play. Nicky is a great tutor for learning what needs to be played to get the heart of a song across. And in music, the song is king. If you're following any other creed, you're just masturbating. Track 2. Come On and Dance. Five out of 5 stars. Mick's guitar tone on this album is so pure and kicks so much ass. Mick's a great guitar player, no matter what Jakey Lee says. It's really a different style of guitar than I think a lot of us were hearing anywhere else at the time, isn't it? I mean, Mick's just so aggressive and so melodic at the same time. It's a beautiful thing. One of my favorite things about the Electra version of this album is that they moved the tracks around a little bit. Part of that movement was flipping Come On and Dance from side 2 to track 2 of side 1. I love it here. I think it really works great following up Livewire and heading into Public Enemy #1. On the Leathur Records version, Come On and Dance just kind of seems to get a little lost on side 2 for whatever reason. Here, it holds up a lot better in my opinion. Track 3, Public Enemy #1. 5 out of 5 stars. An incredible song, really. I know most people are really quick to declare Livewire the best or their favorite song on this album, but I never felt that was the case beyond the first weekend I spent with the album. As a matter of fact, I think almost every track on Too Fast for Love has been my favorite track at some point, but it was barely Livewire for any real length of time. Most days of the almost 40 years I've been listening to this album, Public Enemy #1 has been that song for me. A bit more about that later. Track 4, Merry-Go-Round. 5 out of 5 stars. I remember thinking, I don't know, it sure says that an awful lot. Isn't it funny the thoughts you remember having about a song sometimes after years and years with it as a part of your life? This might have been the last song I ever considered possibly the best on the album. Whenever it broke through, though, boy, did it break through. This is one of my favorite lyrical pieces on the album, and believe me, that is saying something. I love everything about it. Every note, every tone, the pacing, the drums. My God, the drums. I don't know how he did it, but Tommy Lee is the most poetic drummer I've ever heard in my life. Because he's the only one who ever made me use that word to describe drumming. Every beat has meaning. Every beat is perfectly placed, perfectly expressive, and stylistically almost perfectly unexpected. When I first got this album, I was still learning to play drums, my first instrument. And let me tell you, Tommy Lee's choices can seem more than a bit weird when you first hear them and try to mimic them. He's just incredible. One of the best and most unique drummers I've ever heard in my life. Again, it's all about the choices these guys make. The thing of absolute beauty, every one of these tracks. I really cannot express how much I love the messages in these songs. You know he's got to get away to the merry-go-round and round. Count the times that he laid awake at night thinking, am I going down now? Am I going down? Am I going down now? It's not easy putting on a smile. You're alone, lost and found. She waits at home just to love him through the night, thinking, he's been gone so long. Is he coming home? So much beauty in these words and the way they're delivered. Before Motley, I was already a huge Kiss fan. Huge. That never changed. I still am. And in the 80s, basically from 1983 on, Paul Stanley was king. That voice, my goodness. Not long after I got Shout at the Devil and Too Fast for Love, I started getting into bands like Dio and Judas Priest and Maiden and Queensryche and on and on. And those bands, some of the most incredible singers on the planet. But Vince Neil was instantly my favorite singer. Shout at the Devil didn't make that the case. Too Fast for Love did. And go ahead, make fun of me for saying that. Bring up all those nasty YouTube videos where you can't even tell if what he's singing are actual words or even syllables. I don't care what you say. Vince can still sing. He just can't breathe. If he'd breathe properly, and yes, if he'd get into better shape, he could still totally hit most of these notes. Vince was immediately my favorite singer the second I heard this album because of the expressiveness his voice has on these recordings. It's seriously the perfect marriage between a voice and a lyric and that music. At least to my ears. And that's why Motley Crue only works one way for me, with Vince's voice delivering Nicky's lyrics. Anything else? It's just something else. Track 5, Take Me to the Top. 5 out of 5 stars. What a track. What a way to close the first side of this album. Track 6, Piece of Your Action.
You.
5 out of 5 stars. Love it. Not one of my absolute favorite tracks from the album, but still a really great tune. When you have this many fabulous tunes on one record, you're bound to feel at least slightly less enthusiastic about something. This just happens to be that one for me, but it's still 5 out of 5 stars. All attitude. Great Mick Mars performance here. I love that solo. Track 7, Starry Eyes. Five out of 5 stars. Definitely one of my absolute favorite tracks from the album and always has been. The music is great. I love it. One of the first riffs I learned to play from this album on my guitar. Those inverted power chords, they're just so cool. I didn't hear very many people doing those in 1981 and 82, but they work just brilliantly here. The way they give you the same bass tones as the regular power chords would, but they also give you the harmony tones, almost as if you had two players doing a sort of harmony rhythm duet. It's just really, really cool. And to my ear, maybe a little more expressive. Sort of gives the song a melancholy feel, which fits the lyric perfectly. It also works really great with Nicky's bass line, especially on the verses. But it's all about the lyric and the vocal for me. I mean, I just love Nicky's lyrical sensibility on this material. It's just perfect. Yet another example of that is track 8, Too Fast for Love. Five out of 5 stars. Living on a jet, making love to someone else's dreams. Say it again. She puts her leg up, well, calls it good luck. Do you know what I mean? Do you remember? Well, I remember. Dream machine, so damn cool she can turn on the night. The more that she gets, well, the more that she needs. Do you know what I mean? Do you remember? I remember. She's a streamlined queen on a sex-craved movie screen. Say it again. She'll use her time up and have nothing to show. Well, mark my words. Do you remember? Well, I remember. To me, it all just paints this picture. I don't know exactly how else to describe that picture because there's no way I'm going to be able to do that as well as his lyrics describe it. But I just think it's awesome. It was a world I didn't really know personally. I mean, I was 13 when I discovered these albums, but it was a world I could imagine one I could relate to somehow in a deeply personal way. It made me want to listen to these guys, watch these guys, read about these guys, hang photos of these guys all over my bedroom walls. It made me want to be these guys. And even now, 40 years later, every time I hear any of these songs, I'm right back there in that same place, in that bedroom plastered with all those posters and magazine clippings, learning how to play these songs and how to write my own, because these guys inspired me to do that. Track 9, On With the Show. Five out of 5 stars. One of the greatest album closers I can think of. That riff, those drums, that bass line, that vocal. But damn, man, those lyrics. It's just perfection. It really is, to me. I can't think of many songs from that era or any other that have meant as much to me and the friends that I was growing up with at that time. We didn't talk about it openly very much, of course, but I think we all bonded over the ideas we were presented with in these songs. It really was something I don't think we were getting anyplace else. And considering the fact that we lost multiple friends in high school, we needed it. I always wanted to meet Nikki and Vince and just thank them for writing songs like this. If either of you guys should ever happen to see this video, thank you. It meant the world. And obviously, I still haven't forgotten it. Neither, I'm sure, have any of those other friends. On a musical note, I just absolutely love that they didn't take the distortion off of Mick's guitar for that opening riff. How many of the bands would have left that distorted? Not many, I think. I'm not sure I actually thought about it until just now, but it really makes the song for me. I mean, think about it. If that was some clean, pretty sounding acoustic thing, would you feel the same way about this song? In conclusion, if you're paying attention and you can do any level of math at all, you may have noticed something by now. Yes, it's a perfect album for me. That's the perfect album. More perfect even than any of the other perfect albums I'm eventually going to cover on this channel. Nothing can touch it. Nothing. For me, personally, there really is nothing that compares to Too Fast for Love, either musically or sentimentally. What do I mean by that? Okay, well, what I'm talking about is that emotionally, this album connected for me in a way that no other album ever has before that or since. When I heard Motley for the first time on the Shout album, I was stunned, blown away, affected. I mean, really, truly affected. I was 13 then, starting to have my own ideas about things like life, friendship, rebellion, love, belonging, expression. And suddenly, at almost that exact moment in time, here was this sound coming out of my speakers that almost perfectly expressed all of that to me, note after note, line after line, without permission, without apology, without compromise. But Shout had an angry sound, an unapologetically violent sound. It was dark, it was mean, it was brutal, and I loved that brutality. It altered who I was and what I accepted. But as much as I loved it, as much as my horizons began to expand because of it, it wasn't quite me. I was a mostly happy kid. I had great parents, great friends, teachers I liked, parents of friends that I got along with. I didn't want to be violent. I wasn't having a hard life. So when I was looking through the choices in one of those old Columbia House catalogs one day, thinking of joining, and I came across the little picture of the Too Fast for Love album cover, I was like, there it is, more Motley Crue, hell yeah. And I immediately ordered it and began pacing the floor of my bedroom, waiting for it to show up. And when that cassette showed up in the mail and I tore the package open and popped it into my boombox for the very first time, that was the moment I found everything I had been looking for in my rebellious little 13-year-old heart. With Too Fast for Love, something was different. These lyrics and melodies weren't exclusively brutal, violent, angry. That was definitely a part of what I was hearing, but there was so much more. It was a different kind of rebellion. The tales were a little dark and mean at times, yes, but also empathetic and tender. And they had a certain innocence in the way they expressed what they needed to. If Shout at the Devil was lyrically and visually akin to The Road Warrior, then Too Fast for Love was Rebel Without a Cause. There's simply a level of longing and angst and poetry present that I hadn't realized was sort of lacking in the Shout at the Devil lyrics until I heard what had come before. An example, with the Shout at the Devil album, as great as it is, you have lyrics like, fight for the black shark, see what evil brings, can't you see we're out for blood, love from a shotgun, license to kill, can't you see we're out for blood. The kids scream in fright through the night, loving every bite with delight, and we blow out our minds with your truth. Together we stand for the youth. Now, I love those lyrics. I thought Shout's lyrical content was awesome and exciting, and it gave me new things to think about that I hadn't really been exposed to before. I'm definitely not knocking those lyrics. They're some of my favorite memories of my entire life. But with Too Fast for Love, well, it was just something I could identify with much more easily. Where Shout was more like this really pissed off fantasy world I would go off to for a while. But Too Fast for Love was like things that were already a part of me and always had been. And they'd been there naturally without me having to create any level of fantasy in my mind. Some lyrics introduce you to a place you've never been, like a fictional book. Basically, it's escapism through music. Too Fast for Love was nonfiction for the biggest part. These lyrics told me about the place I already was, and they kept saying to me over and over again, it was okay for me to be there because I wasn't the only one who was. Public Enemy #1 is a perfect example, and that's why it's my favorite song on the album. With lyrics like that, song after song, all the way through the album, combined with that music and those melodies, it was over for me right then and there. Motley Crue was my favorite band, and Too Fast for Love was my favorite album ever. Still is. Always will be. A perfect 5 stars for the album, Hard Rockers. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I know I'm not the only one. See you next time. Thanks for watching the Motley Crue reviews.
That's one thing you'll never get out of us. We'll never water ourselves down. I mean, we'd rather just break up than be bland.